In the brutal world of international rugby, some leaders are born for the spotlight, their names just destined for greatness. Others are forged in the shadows, hardened by years of quiet service, just waiting for their moment. For nearly a decade, Jesse Kriel was the dependable soldier, a veteran present always in the background of the mighty Springboks. But what happens when the soldier is unexpectedly handed the crown? This is the story of the silent leader who, in a moment of huge uncertainty, stepped up to become the most unlikely captain in modern rugby. But to really get the man who took the armband, you have to understand the journey that got him there. If you're a fan of deep dives in the world of rugby and stories of incredible leadership, do us a favor, subscribe to the channel. You're not going to want to miss what we've got coming up. Jesse Kriel's story in green and gold is one of just remarkable presence. He made his debut all the way back in 2015, thrown right into the fire against Australia in the Rugby Championship. And that very first match was a perfect preview of his career to come. Kriel scored a brilliant try, announcing his arrival, but ended up on the losing side. For almost a decade, that was the pattern. He was a player with immense talent and relentless work ethic, but always seemed to be just outside the brighter spotlight. Born on February 15, 1994, Kriel was a standout talent from his high school days at Maritzburg College, known for his power, pace, and the kind of defensive grit that would become his trademark. He moved through the ranks from South African schools to the junior Boks, showing off a versatility that saw him play everywhere, center, wing, and fullback. This was both a gift and a curse. It made him priceless to coaches who needed a gap filled, but it also typecast him as the reliable jack of all trades, never the undisputed master of one position. As the years rolled on, Kriel just kept stacking up caps, becoming one of the most experienced players in the squad and a veteran of 3 Rugby World Cups. Rassie Erasmus himself called Kriel one of the fittest guys on the team, a player who could always go the full 80 minutes, and was a deep student of the game. Still, when the conversation turned to leadership, his name rarely came up. The Springboks had giants in that department. They had the iconic nation-uniting force of Siya Kolisi and the raw power of Eben Etzebeth, not to mention the tactical mind of Handré Pollard. Compared to these titans, Kriel's leadership was different. It wasn't loud. He wasn't the one giving speeches. He was and is still a leader who commands respect with his actions. He was the defensive captain, the quiet organizer, the guy leading by example with every bone-rattling tackle. For years, he was the ultimate team man, doing his job with ferocious dedication while someone else wore the armband. He was the soldier, not the general, a respected veteran, but an overlooked leader. His journey, though, was far from over. Every hero's journey has a moment that defines them. For Jesse Kriel, his darkest professional moment came during what should have been the peak, the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan. He was a key part of the machine grinding its way through the tournament, but in the opening game, disaster struck. A hamstring injury forced him to withdraw from the entire competition. Imagine the emotional turmoil, years of sacrifice, all building towards this one moment, only to have it snatched away. He had to watch from the sidelines as his teammates, his brothers, went on to achieve the impossible and lift the Webb Ellis Cup. While the nation celebrated, Kriel was on the outside looking in, a world champion sure, but denied the chance to spill his own sweat on the final turf. It was a brutal blow that could have broken a lesser player, but this is where the character of the silent leader was truly forged. Instead of fading, Kriel dug deep. He fought his way back to fitness and back into the fiercely competitive Springbok team. With the rise of Lucanio at outside centre, Kriel's spotlight wasn't even guaranteed anymore. He had to fight for every single chance, proving his worth over and over again. He obsessed over the game, adding new weapons to his attack, a grubber kick, a subtle pass, to go with his famous defense. He embraced his role as a senior player, a quiet mentor in a squad already full of leaders. He learned by watching guys like Siya Kolisi. Understanding the leadership in the Boks setup isn't about one man, it's a shared responsibility. This period, marked by a crushing disappointment and a relentless fight for his job, was the fire that prepared him for the moment he never saw coming. He was unknowingly completing his leadership apprenticeship, soaking up the team's ethos of humility and collective strength. In all of world rugby, there isn't a more daunting place to play than Eden Park. It is the graveyard for visiting teams, a fortress where the All Blacks are practically invincible. Heading into the 2025 Rugby Championship, the Springboks hadn't won since 1937, a staggering 88-year drought. On top of that, New Zealand was on a 50-match unbeaten streak at their spiritual home, a record that had become a weapon in itself. This was the stage for a truly monumental battle. As the test week kicked off, trouble hit the Springbok camp. The team's iconic captain Siya Kolisi was dealing with a knee niggle and was ruled out to avoid any risk. The question immediately started swirling: who would lead the Boks in the Lions' Den? With plenty of senior players around, there were a few obvious candidates, but then the announcement came and it sent shockwaves through the rugby world. The man chosen to captain the Springboks against the All Blacks at Eden Park was Jesse Kriel. It was a decision nobody saw coming. Kriel, the quiet professional, the dependable veteran, was now tasked with one of the toughest jobs in the sport. It was a massive honor, one he later admitted he never expected. He'd captained the side in warm-ups and against Italy, but this was different. This was the ultimate test against the greatest rival at a venue that had haunted generations of Springboks. The weight of history and the hope of a nation now rested on his shoulders. He wasn't the understudy anymore. The silent soldier has been given the command of the army. The ink had barely dried on the team sheet when the week's drama cranked up another notch. In a cruel twist, flanker Jean-Luc Dupree, who was set to start, got injured in training. Suddenly, everything changed. Siya Kolisi, having made a surprisingly fast recovery, was now fit to play. The obvious move seemed to be slotting him straight back into the lineup. And with that, everyone just assumed the captain's armband would naturally go back to its regular owner. But inside the Bok camp, something remarkable happened. A decision was made that said everything about the team's culture of trust. The coaching staff, led by Rassie Erasmus, announced that while Kolisi would indeed start, Jesse Kriel would remain the captain. This wasn't just a snub to Kolisi. In fact, the decision to stick with Kriel was suggested and fully supported by Siya Kolisi himself. Rassie Erasmus explained the logic, revealing a core belief of the team. Internally, the squad had already been told Kriel was the captain for the week. To go back on that would be to go back on their word. At that stage, Jesse had already been told he would be the captain. And it was only fair of us to keep things that way, Erasmus said. That single decision was a powerful show of faith. It was a message to Kriel and the entire team that when a responsibility is given, it is honored. Erasmus praised Kriel's leadership, talking about his excellent communication and how he leads by example. For Kriel, it was the ultimate vote of confidence. He knew he had the complete trust of his coach and the selfless backing of the man whose shoes he was filling. The captaincy hadn't been stolen. It had been entrusted, earned, and then, in an incredible act of leadership from all sides, it was secured. What do you think about the call? Does it show the ultimate team-first culture? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the story, go ahead and smash the like button. When Jesse Kriel led the Springboks on the turf at Eden Park, he was carrying more than just the hopes of a team. He carried the weight of an 88-year history of defeat at the venue and the personal journey of a man who had spent a decade serving the green and gold, often without the recognition he deserved. The result of a match, a hard-fought 24-17 loss, the Boks weren't clinical enough, is almost a secondary to an incredible story of leadership that unfolded that week. The All Blacks fortress remained standing, but something had shifted within the Springboks. A new leader had been publicly and powerfully validated. Kriel's journey from the quiet soldier to the respected general was completed. He had faced the pressure of an unexpected captaincy and a historical burden of Eden Park, and he handled it with a calm, quiet poise that defined him. In his own words, he acknowledged the privilege, but immediately deflected the praise back to the group. We all know that Siya is our captain, Kriel said. It's all of us that kind of help and lead when we need to. The humility, the team-first attitude, is the essence of the Springbok spirit. It is why a player most people overlook for leadership could be handed the armband and wear it so comfortably. Jesse Kriel's story is a powerful reminder that leadership isn't always about having the loudest voice. Sometimes it's about the quiet resolve, the unwavering dedication, and a character forged through the years of tireless work in the shadows. He may have been the most unlikely captain, but in that moment, he was the perfect one.